desperation is how I wander through the world in which I live. I search everywhere for some new inspiration, but it's more than cold reality can give. If I need a cause for celebration or a comfort I can use to ease my mind, I rely on my imagination, and I dream of an imaginary time. I'm saying, and if a word from you can bring a better day, then all I have are these games that I've been playing to keep my hope from crumbling away. So let me lie and let me go on sleeping, and I will lose myself in palaces of sand, and all the fantasies that I have been keeping will make the empty hours easier to stand. And I know that everybody has a dream. Everybody has a dream. Everybody has a dream. This is my dream, my own, just to be at home and to be all alone with you. Everybody has a dream. No, no, no. Everybody has a dream. Everybody has a dream. Oh, and everybody has a dream. Oh, no, no. Everybody,
Mr. King, thank you so much for agreeing to stand with me tonight and talk a little bit about your work and your passion for young people. The Children's Services Council was created by the voters to help young people grow into healthy, productive adults, which I know is a passion of yours. Mm-hmm. What would you say are the most important elements that young people have to have in their lives to become healthy, productive adults?
You know, from my own personal perspective, it always is exposure and creating the right environment and climate. In our home, for example, we were taught to have a love of ourselves. It's important to really first love yourself. We were taught to love our families. We were taught to have a love for our community. And we were taught to have a love of God. And I think while you cannot mandate that, it is a partial remedy for some level of success. Because when you love yourself, then it's easier to love other selves. And when you love other selves, your family first, it's easier to love our community. When we love our community, we make our community better. We help each other out. That's why mentoring is so important, because our young people need examples. Now, in the African American community, and really in a lot of communities, our society spends so much time focusing on entertainment and athleticism that we are missing the mark. For example, most people, period, not just blacks, but don't know that the CEO of American Express is an African American, Ken Chenault. Don't know the CEO of Xerox is an African American woman, Ursula Burns. Don't know that the former CEO of Time Warner was an African American, Richard Parsons, just to name a few. And there are others. The CEO of Sam's Club is an African American woman. So my point is, images are very important, and children need to understand that there are additional images. The largest image that, one of the greatest unintended consequences, I think, that will help to create stronger families, not just in the African American community, but it will be significant in the African American community, is the example, an unintended consequence is the election of President Obama and the First Lady, Michelle Obama, and their children. Young people have seen the President and the First Lady and their children for 4 years. Now they'll see them another 4 years. So a lot of young people will say, I want to be like that. At one time, black children could not say. They could say, well, I want to be the president, but there's no example. There's an example now, so it's not like it's something that cannot be achieved. It can be achieved, but I'm also, that's why I was saying that CEOs, corporate CEOs, need to be shown, because the reality is there are only so many people who can be entertainers, so many people who can be athletically successful, but there are a lot of people who can have their own businesses. Entrepreneurship is important. We have to create a spirit, foster of entrepreneurship, and I think just in general we have to always exhibit and exemplify positive imagery. Today, our young we have the social medians that exist, from Twitter, Facebook, to Instagram, to LinkedIn, to you name it, and it's growing. And currently, those tools are the surface is only being just barely touched to disseminate information, but not necessarily important information. It's just kind of trivial. That doesn't mean that it's a bad use. It just means that we've got to expand our horizons so that we can talk about young people who are doing positive things in communities. When the Newtown, for example, I'm sure this was on Facebook or Twitter, tragedy occurred, there were children in California who were going around and they were taking the negative video games, collecting them, saying we don't want to see them anymore. Now we need to see more of that kind of positive thing displayed, as opposed to, what someone is doing around the corner that's negative, and is superficial and unimportant. But we've got to create that climate for people to want to promote good, and I think that is what helps to create the kind of community that we want. The most important thing is creating a strong foundation. And sometimes children don't have it at home. So that means that we don't have a person to lose. Every one of us in society have to be engaged. Now, what is wonderful about this nation is that people do want to help. They don't always know what to do. We know that because whenever a catastrophe occurs, whether it's a tsunami, a tornado, a hurricane, an earthquake, a tragedy like in Newtown, Americans come ready to do something. It doesn't matter people don't ask when they want to help, well, what religion are you? Well, what is your sexual orientation? They don't even look at color. That's the best of who Americans are. I'm not suggesting we need to stay in crisis. We respond to crisis, but we need to create conditions so that we operate as we do in crisis more consistently than not. Because what happens is after the crisis, we go back to our corners. And unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of doing that yet.
Can I follow up on something you said earlier about President Obama? And I'm wondering about another perhaps unintended consequence of his presidency being the wonderful family and the modeling that the Obamas do about a solid family and that importance of that familial unit and a father figure. A father.
Yes.
And he makes a really strong point about being a father. Mm-hmm. Could you talk a little bit about that importance of a father figure or a mentor who could fill that role?
Well, I think the president very much has shown America that I'm the president of the United States, but I'm also first and foremost a father, a husband and a father. And I'm going to spend my time that I need to, whether it's having dinner together with my wife and the girls every day. I think the president has a certain time that they sit down and have dinner together. Now, technically, the president could eat at one time, the first lady could eat at another, the kids could eat, but it's important to sit down. And then the president goes to the activities that the children are involved in, special curricular activities, whether it's games, and meets with the teachers. That's what parents are supposed to do. But the family unit works together. I have a 4-year-old daughter, so I find myself often, no matter how busy I am, there's nothing more important to me than our daughter. And so to me, this unintended consequence is going to be huge. We can't necessarily state specifically what it's going to be, but we know that it is going to create the image in the minds of young people that we want to be like the president and first lady, and will create family structures, which, yes, there are many who've come out of single-family parent homes and done well, but ideally, I believe that children at best need to have, in the best and optimum circumstances, a mother and a father who are working together to help mold that child.
And where that's not possible, other male figures who can perhaps step in?
Where that's not possible, that's why mentoring is so important. And, I think there are individuals who are mentoring, but not enough. For example, earlier today I was with an airline pilot who is affiliated with the Y, and I guess affiliated indirectly as a board member, and African American. Well, the average child doesn't see African American pilots, but there are a number of them. And aviation is a field where there's going to always be some level of growth. So again, it's what you see that helps you want to aspire to become something else. And part of what has happened is when I was growing up, 45, 50 years ago, in my community, there were domestic workers, there were preachers, there were teachers, there were business professional people, all living in the same neighborhood. So a child who was in an impoverished situation could look across the street and say, you know what, I can be like that. I don't have to, just because I'm born in this situation. Today, we have relegated populations of people, all poor, being the same, and so they really don't have anything different that they can see other than what the images are on television. And unfortunately, some of those images are not necessarily positive. Some are, but some are not. And so, we got to figure out how do we create this climate so that children can have dreams and dream and be able to fulfill those dreams. That's the kind of climate we need to create in America. Mentoring helps get us there. And they're all kind of programs, and what you're doing here in Broward County is quite significant in what the Y is doing. I mean, when the Y told me that they actually work with 6,000 kids a day, I was shocked because I was thinking of a freestanding facility where kids would come and didn't think about the fact that you had people who would go into the school system. But that's huge. It's going to make a tremendous difference in this community, and ultimately it will make a tremendous difference in the nation.
We are extremely fortunate here. The voters of Broward County voted to tax themselves for the purpose of helping children, and through agencies such as the Y, where we can do that and fund these after-school programs that are not just babysitting, but that are high quality, where they're getting academic supports, they're learning nutrition, they're learning physical fitness. The Y is amazing, and we have so many great providers here who are trying to make that dream a reality. So thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
And thank you for what you do every day.